One, go. What's up, guys? This is Keith Kalfas, and I have a special guest for you. And I don't normally do videos like this, but I'm going to be interviewing Mr. Sean Adams from Integra Consulting right here. So stick around, and if you keep watching, I encourage you to do so, because we're going to learn specifically about what does a plateau look like when you're stuck on a plateau as a service business owner, and I can totally relate to that. What does that look like, and how do we navigate into that to figure out how to get off of a plateau, to maybe install or instill a couple strategies or systems so we can get to the next step in our service business. So what does it look like to be held back? We're going to ask Sean Adams, and I'll tell you a little bit more about him in a second. And what strategies can we implement, and what insights can we get from this to get to the next step? So Sean Adams has built an extremely successful landscaping business. He got it to the fully sustainable model, where it was just under $800,000 a year with 3 full-time crews, and was able to actually remove himself from, out of the field, then mostly out of the operations. And he learned so much from that. He became popular in the industry, and then he moved on to bigger and better things. And not bigger and better, but he has a calling in his heart to take the things that he's learned, and he definitely has a gift and a talent and a lot of skill when it comes to coaching other contractors, because for the last couple of weeks he's been coaching me. And I wanted to bring him on the channel and interview him because this guy has some really good insight, and most of all, he speaks the native language that we speak. Pardon me, my dogs are barking. I'm in my studio here, but the language he spoke to me. If you watch my channel and you kind of like the way that I communicate, you're gonna like this guy, because he talks about the specific issues that we have to overcome to get to the next step. What's going on, Sean Adams? Hey,
good to be here. I appreciate the kind words. Thanks for having me.
Yes, man. So let's dive right into it and drill deep. Talk a little bit about yourself, your business quickly, and then the different levels of how you can get stuck on a plateau, and how do you navigate through that? So talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Regular green industry background, as I'm sure most people came from. Same trials and tribulations, suffered from immense ego problems, thinking I could solve everything myself, which certainly led me to a lot of plateaus in my business. I think it's a really common theme as well, that a lot of these home service guys, in that world, you can hustle and get to that, 100,000, maybe even 200,000 in annual revenue. And you sort of try to take those same get to that point and think that that's what's going to exponentially allow you to grow to the $500,000 and $600,000 mark. And in the coaching and what I've seen is just not the case. There's a series of systems that you have to put in place. And I think a lot of people suffer from a mindset that's just limited in thinking that systems are for corporations and systems are for multi-location, large businesses. So once I sort of understood that, started putting the software and understanding how automations and leveraging the ability of technology and what other people have done, it just really got me to the point where I could get things consistent and document and blueprint everything in my business, so that if I were to not be there, whether it was an accident or something that I actually wanted to do purposefully, I could do so. And once that sort of happened, I got a bug for trying to help other people do the same. So pretty much the background.
So you got to the point where you were able to start documenting everything and creating systems, right?
Yeah, everything was a manual. That's what I tried to say. If you weren't there, there's tons of people talking about this, but that's the whole process. The E-Myth, books like that, you try to build it as if you're going to sell the company, even if you have no intentions of doing so. So there's plenty of books and content about that, but it's really just actually honing in on that. I think a lot of guys get hung up on the fact that they know that they have chaos and things going on in their business. They want things to be better, but they don't want to actually change. They want to stay exactly how they are, keep going at the same rate, working till 9 o'clock at night, spinning their wheels, and they look around and nothing's changed. And it's the definition of insanity, right? Continuously doing the same things and expecting the results to be different. So unless you make those series of tasks and decisions in your business, nothing's actually going to change. So that's the big catalyst that I've seen, at least.
That's powerful. I once heard Jonathan Potoshnik in a video of The Lawn Care Millionaire. He said something about every year you tell yourself, this is the last year, this year things are going to be different. And you launch out into the season totally gung-ho, and then by like June you settle, and then it overtakes you, and now it's literally a repeat of the same year. You're putting out the same fires, and it sucks you in. I've seen this happen in my business over and over and over. And then something's been happening to me. I go, whoa, like my belief systems, when you believe in something, you believe in that so strongly, and you can't really consider, it's hard to consider the fact or the possibility that you actually could be only partially right, or you could be wrong. That's a hard ego thing to overcome. So one guy can be really crushing it in a certain aspect, or one guy could be just stuck on a plateau. And so, and for me, it was trying to do everything with the excuse of, where's the extra money going to come from to pay if I hire anybody. And recently, over the past 90 days, I've been working on automating the sales and marketing process in my business. And I've got a couple things in place, and they've helped so much.
Yeah.
But for you guys watching, if you're still stuck, the biggest part and issue for me is the labor, specifically the plateau, is the cost of legitimate labor and finding and hiring those qualified people with turning up the sales and marketing so more leads are coming in, so you can get the dollar amount that you need to support that, and doing it on a consistent basis so it's stable and predictable. How do you overcome that and crack that nut?
Sure. And that's the thing it's a really complex, like that perfect sweet spot that you have to hit to allow your sales to get to that point and allow your infrastructure to rise to be able to handle that kind of output. And that's a really hard thing as well. And it comes in, it's natural progression. That's going to happen. Again, understanding that there's going to have to be a different person than you were to get to that 150, that $200,000 mark. You need to take your mind away from those scarcity models. And, well, why would I spend $200 a week to have somebody help me with XYZ task? If I could do it myself, I've always done it myself. And I always use this as a simple example because we do a lot with virtual offices, placing them for our clients. We find that to be a really good stepping stone because it gives them instant accountability and consistency in their business, and someone to leverage because they already have experience. Our teams already have that there, so they can actually leverage that without having to reinvent that themselves. So we'd have people that would argue that I'm not going to spend $200, $300 a week to pay someone part-time to answer my phone calls, right? And I don't know about you guys, but I'm a momentum guy. If I'm on my sales game, I'm calling people and I'm running around. Maybe you're doing estimates and you're crushing it door to door, or you're on your social media, whatever you're doing. When you have a flow, you got to keep pushing as long as you can. If I use the example of when you're doing that and Mrs. Smith calls you right in the middle of that and says that there's a blade of grass that was out of line, or there was a streak on her window, or whatever that was, and it just shuts you down. You lose all your momentum and you're just totally off your game. And if you didn't have any of those things, you could have been focused and run another 10 hours. So I usually say to people, you could have spent $200 per week. You could have freed up 10 more hours of your week. Ultimately get you focusing on closing more sales. If you have an average ticket of maybe $400, an extra 5 or 10 estimates, you could have brought in $3,000 or $4,000 for the $200 that you spent. That's the incremental versus the exponential. People are afraid to spend incremental amounts of money to get the exponential results. So getting out of that scarcity model and saying, look, if I spend a little bit of money, it is an investment. If you do the right places and with the right resources, it can really catapult my effort.
I'm sitting here just pondering on what you said. Wait. Okay, so I hired a freelance secretary recently, and it's been amazing because we're hooked up on Voxer, and every single thing that comes down the pike, I just go on Voxer, say, send an invoice to Bob Jones for $297, window cleaning inside and out. Send an email to this customer. Syndicate this piece of content, do this, all within the service business. And it just builds up this big pile. And then she Voxers me back, okay, I sent an invoice to this client. What about this client? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm literally driving because my hands are either stuck on a wheel or maybe working, and I have to actually pull over with the flashers on because I try to do it while I'm driving. It just doesn't work, bro.
I hear you.
And so it's kind of like the plan of this call, guys, a little bit was for him to coach me a little bit so you guys listen in, and also to create value, because I'm actually on a plateau in my own business. So this is perfect. And that's why I wanted to do this and make a video about this. So, and it's so amazing because it's freed up so much of my time, because to pick up and put down a task and try to wear all these different hats can literally drive you insane and put you into depression, right?
Absolutely. Because we have so much emotion tied to everything that we do. And I think people try to think that they're extremely logical. And there's so many tests and so many things that have been said about how we're not. We act so emotionally. We have things tied into that. So if you have those tasks like maybe invoicing or accounting or your bookkeeping, that's what plagues you. You're bad at it. You don't like the numbers. You hate the detailed minutia, and it just kills you. Like, those are the things that it's not just, oh, it's 5 hours of my week and it's $100 that I save. It's getting that out of your mind. It's focusing you. If you were to distill all the different tasks that you need to do in business, but associate dollar amounts per hour for what they are, and you could kind of skim off the top tier events. They're going to be maybe your top tier hiring efforts, your sales efforts, right? Selling the big ticket work. You as the CEO, even if you're the little guy with a couple people in the field or you're by yourself, finding a way to hyper-focus your efforts on that, because that's what drives you forward, and not getting held up, and try as much as possible to outsource smaller things at the bottom of those funnels that just bottleneck your time. And that's the biggest thing, is focusing on those more efficient tasks that you can really drive your company forward.
Momentum. So if you focus on what you do best and just go 100% at it, or a much larger percentage than trying to pick up and put down all these little tasks, then you can excel at that thing and create more revenue and then it'll just fill up. I think of it like ice cube trays. If you let the water go, right, they automatically fill up all the other ones. I'm obsessed with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because my brain works like that. Anybody else, you guys watching this, like, you have to see it in a certain way or feel it, and then you go, oh. And then from that moment on, it's like the synapse happens in your brain, and then it becomes normal to you. It becomes, what did that look like for you? Did you go through that stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, it was a lot of those stop and start moments, because again, I learned about myself in that sense, that I actually got a high off of speaking with people and being ingrained in sales conversations and going to meetings with like high prospect commercial properties and learning about how to bid those type of things. Like, I really loved the relational aspects of those. And that's what really made me think, like, when I'm at home and I'm sending out that last email or dealing with the customer care aspect of just a stupid question that took 2 seconds to answer and no real involvement other than someone else could have done that so simply, or invoicing, and like that just plagued us, being a recurring business. We just always missed out on it. But once I understood that and started like calculating out, it was all about opportunity. When I could segment off those smaller tasks and had someone consistently handling my accounting, I was like, you need to tell me I have 10 hours more per week that I can sell. And then I just got in front of the right client one time. And I was like, that made me $10,000 for one client because it freed up my week. I think that's really important. And one other comment. The other thing is there are guys out there listening that are not the sales-driven guy. They're not the CEO. They want to be the worker, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you need to recognize that that's your strength, and then figure out a way to get help with those other elements. If you're the guy who's a perfectionist, maybe you're doing the installations and that's all you really want to do, find someone to help you with sales. Find a partner to help you with maybe the admin or the office or the strategic tasks and planning. Like, all of those things you can find and outsource. We live in the world where you can get a virtual CFO. You can find someone who will run the finances of your company for like $50 an hour. Like, those things are there. You just have to you can't live in this world of like, okay, well, everything's got to come through me and it's got to be this super old school. Like, us in the trades, we get really ingrained in like everything has to be how it always was. Like, you think about other industries, they've been doing these sort of things for decades. We're way behind the curve overall. So that's just sort of, again, I think it comes down to the mindset and understanding.
Dude, I'm just sitting here. I don't have anything. I'm just thinking about what you just said. Okay, so what about the guy who's saying, yeah, that makes sense. but you don't know my business. That doesn't work for me because my profit margins don't even afford me to even get to that next step. And I'm already pulling my hair out and angry and frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah. So like macro, all these things conceptually make sense, but micro usually is where the first issues are, especially the smaller guys. If they're missing out on just like roughly at a really basic level, understanding their numbers, like not knowing how they arrive at a profit margin, or not knowing what cost of goods sold is, or how their overhead is structured, how they recover that information. Like that's okay if you don't know that, but that's step one. Like you need to get that. If you don't understand it and it's something that's killing you, that's the part that you would need to first outsource. You need to understand that part and then go, okay, like my thing is always around, like there's tens of thousands of home service companies just in your state, let alone the country, right? There's people out there that are absolutely crushing it, and they still have to deal with the labor shortage. They still have to deal with taxes. They still have to deal with all the same issues you do. Yes, there's a guy around the corner who doesn't have insurance, low prices. Oh, that guy's not going to last 30 years. The companies that are going to last a long time and have built longevity are attracting and building a culture at that incremental level. So they're learning their numbers. And what I try to say is that there's people out there that are doing it without some of that information of how they're doing it. Maybe it's in your region. Or take some different tools. Like you don't have to just subscribe to one YouTube channel to get content, right? There's so much good stuff out there. Learn about what works in your demographic. Learn about your area a little bit more. There's a certain way that you segment your market and learn more about snow plowing as a ancillary service to what you do. Or
here's a touchy question. What if a dude's cutting lawns and he's looking at his books and he literally he's like, I'm already so far below the line. Like, and he's like, I'm not saying like he's got like tons of accounts and route density. Sure. I'm saying like he's like in his second, third, maybe fourth year lawn care. And the guy's like, I don't see, like it's starting to dawn on him that unless he starts, diversifying or getting more route density or increasing something, he doesn't even have a marketing budget. Where does that guy go?
Yeah, so I was actually in that position at one point, and we were doing like 200 residential mowing accounts just weekly. We were just going in circles, and the money with the expenses and the equipment and the tires and the oil, just like it was outrageous the amount of just export you had to put out there to try to keep things going. And I finally, as I went through and started understanding my numbers, I'm like, this is insane. Why am I doing this? Like I'm servicing that person's property. And in my head, I'm going, well, I have to keep them because I do Mrs. Jones over here and Mrs. Smith on that side. And I know Johnny, and like the rationale makes no sense. So ultimately what I did is I figured out all of my numbers and built the formulas, which now you don't need to build. They're out there. You can download them for free on just implement that in your business. You find out what you need to be charging. You have a real one-on-one conversation with them. You will lose probably 50% of your time. But what we did is we went from 200 to like 80, and we were making more money with 80 clients.
Joe Polish talks about that in Piranha Marketing.
It's so spot on because that's your tribe. Like those are the people that you went to and you had that real conversation, the connection. You said, look, even maybe you're a young kid, maybe you've been in business for 30 years. It doesn't matter. And you say, I'll show, like I was an open book. I bring a list of all of my costs and my overhead. And I'd say, this is what it costs me to show up to your property. Like if I put the truck in park, turned off the keys, then turned it on and drove away, it still cost me $8. Like I had to explain that to them so they can see that. And once I walked through and said, I have equality, we have adults that work for our property, they have families, we pay them a wage, we have a higher, all those different things are in there. And they were most clients that wanted to be with us were like, okay, I'll take the ride with you. The quality better stay up, and you better, answer the phone when I call and whatever else. But once we were able to uphold our portion of the agreement, it was life changing. Once you saw that, and everybody's like, oh, well, I need that revenue. You're losing money at the revenue you're taking in now. Adding more volume to the bucket is not going to get you more profit if you have holes in your bucket. You got to patch what you have going on at your core, and then you can expand.
You have holes in the bucket.
Right. So if you've got a client base or you've got a series of leads that are coming in and you have no idea how to qualify them and no idea how to price your work, and people go, oh, I'm giving all these estimates and I'm not making any money on them. Or no, I'm giving all these estimates and I'm not closing on them.
I got a physical prop. 1 second.
All right.
I saw this cool hourglass. It was like $5.
Right.
So I tilted it just now, and look at that. See the bottleneck? But you see how if I were to keep putting sand in the top, it's coming out. That's like a pretty good profit margin. Your
Right.
burn rate.
There's your trickle. Right.
But you're talking about like some businesses, you have to keep dumping it in the top so fast, and this is so fat that only like 10% or 5% of the sand is even left. And if you don't keep dumping it in faster, then how are you going to build this thing up?
Exactly. So that's the whole principle there, is that if you aren't making, so we're not in the manufacturing space, we're not in the high tech space, we're not in a world where there's a burn rate where you need to dump in high amounts of capital to get some sort of critical mass, and then it becomes profitable. It's a different model. And people, I think, they get confused by like seeing different industries. And home service and something that's labor-based is highly specific on your profit margin. You have to know those numbers right away. You need to make money on every property, not just only the properties because you had 5 there in the route and you only make $1 because you happen to park the truck a certain way. Like those are all efficiency, like operational efficiency things, but that can't be your deciding factor because you're like one swing away from that whole thing being a disaster and you lost all of your profit margin. One rainstorm, one road closure, one guy doesn't show up. Everybody deals with that. So you can't expect volume to move the profit further. It's not going to do it. They move in you know, they're synchronized. So
oh dude, now you're pissing me off. Not you, it's just because what you said, because I hear guys all the time say, oh, they make up for it in volume.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, so what perspective are you saying that from? Like, have you crossed the fulcrum point where you can make up for it in volume and profitably? Because if you don't have, I guess, those fine-tuned systems down to make up for it in volume, then that doesn't work at a lower level.
Yeah, within reason, of course. You're not going to have one client who's just going to be the only person you service. You're not going to go from 200 to 5 and make it work, right? But it's, again, those mindsets, understanding, and the trajectory, right? So if you start and you know that you have a bleeding neck scenario right now with how you're pricing your work, and you know you need to get to here, have a timeline set for that, just as any other goal. Don't just dump them overnight, but go through that at that rate, where you can set expectations and say, okay, this year I want to unload my bottom 10% clients who don't pay on time, who always complain regardless of the quality of the work, who whatever that looks like. So
I did that. I unloaded the bottom 10% every single year for 7 years, and we're still always constantly busy. But here's the issue now. Sorry, I'm about to pull the trigger. I've got an office space, but it's small, and I'm about to pull the trigger and rent out this like expensive, nice ass office.
Nice.
But I'm kind of come here because I have beautiful peace and quiet. I love my dogs. I'm just saying.
I hear you. It's that same momentum philosophy.
So I've done in the last 4 weeks. So I pile up all my quotes for Saturdays because for the most part, I'm either in the field or running and getting materials, dealing with customers. And when it comes to quotes, I'll line up anywhere from 8 to 12 quotes on Saturdays. Yesterday, I did 11. Saturday, I did 11 quotes. So I'm over 40 quotes now for the past 4 weeks. And I think I've closed 5 or 6. And this is out of maybe 1 out of 10 phone calls that comes in is a customer that I would actually be willing to give them a quote or do business with on the landscaping end. We close a lot higher with the window cleaning for some reason because we do landscaping and window cleaning. But the quality of calls that are coming in are just garbage, man. Like when I'm on the phone with these people, I ask them I just want to get off the phone immediately. But I know I talked to you about this a little bit. There's better questions that I could ask over the phone. But what I mean is it would take me sitting in an office on a phone for 6 hours a day to bring in a massive wave of phone calls and then just sift through all the garbage and just get that, that bottom or top 10% of customers that are actually the money. And then when I go out and actually quote their properties, it's just, I think of I'm making up the excuse that a lot of it is price. My closing rate is lower than it's ever been ever because my criteria of type of people that I will work with or do work for and the amount of money that I need to make the system work that you're talking about is higher now because now I see clearer. But it's actually kind of like it's nerve wracking a bit because I'm used to being booked 2 months out all the time. We don't do standard, we do some recurring visit property maintenances. We do, but we're not like weekly lawn care. So my actual clientele has to be a bit larger. Like we serve over 400 clients, right? So can you begin to talk about that? Sure. What levers need to be pulled at that point?
Yeah. Okay. So first off, before you get anywhere, what you need to do is go to your top 10% of your clients, the ones that always pay your bills, that if you needed a testimonial or needed to talk to them, they're the first person you would call. Maybe that's 5 or 10 people or however that many that is. Call them and have a real conversation, thanking them for how long they've been a client or whatever good vibes you get from them, and just ask them why, of all the landscaping companies or all the cleaning companies, why they use you. They know for sure, dead on, that you're more expensive than others. They know that they could go down the street and find someone cheaper. What are those factors that that differentiate you from your competition? Learn it from your top 10%, like the people that are your bread and butter. That's going to give you really great content on what is your differentiators that are subliminal. You don't even know. They're probably not even on purpose. They just sort of come out, whatever that is. So learn those things. And then that's what you have to start with, and find a way to start communicating those elements to your new prospects that after you're pre-qualifying on your phone calls and you're now meeting face-to-face where you're going on the property, find a way to communicate that in some sort of script or a way that gets through to them to understand that.
Oh, so this is like some Ryan Levesque ask method type stuff. You ask the customers very specific questions to find out the psychological or emotional reasons why that they keep you around even though you're more expensive. Your cream of the crop clients, your customer avatar. And then you get that information or that data, and then you turn that into your copy, your web pages, the way you communicate, your script. This is from the horse's mouth, exactly what differentiates us from everybody else. Right.
So you're at that level now. You have a baseline understanding, and you can be small. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be hundreds of people, but you want to get some sort. There's going to be commonalities that are going to be there, and once you can take those and distill that down into some sort of value proposition that makes sense for you to communicate. Obviously, the pre-qualifying on your phone calls needs to be spot on, and you can walk through that. Again, something you could outsource if you don't feel like that's a top skill that you have. Find someone that could do that. Write a damn script and let them go off of it, and that'll save you a ton of time. And then understanding your numbers too. So when you're quoting, there's angles where you could be quoting some areas too high, right? So it's probably unlikely that that's like a large amount, but you want to know your numbers to the point where you can speak confidently and be able to communicate that. So that's part B of this. The third part I would say would be to find packages, especially in the maintenance world, in the service world. If you're dealing with 400 people, you know your clients, you know your area better than anyone, you know your climate better than anyone. Figure out how your whole year looks. Maybe if you're in the landscaping field and you're not doing mowing, but you do a spring cleanup, you do shrub trimming in June, you do another heavy weeding in the summer, you do a light pruning in the fall, and then you do like a winterization, and maybe there's mulch all together, right? So
dude, wait a second. Wait. I'm having an epiphany. So there are a lot of customers that we don't get to, and I kind of feel bad just because I don't have the production capability to get to them, because here's how a spring is like you just pull the lever. It's everybody wants everything done at once, and everybody knows what that's like. The amount of emotions you go through and how many hours you work to try to keep everybody happy, and then the people who used to love you hate you and all this bullshit. Right. And then all of a sudden come like after the swamp season, nobody cares that you exist. It's like you hijack. Right.
So you get to combat that, right? That's the beauty of owning your own business. You get to make all these great decisions and learn from other people so that you can navigate this world, because like it or not, when it comes to August or late July or whatever your season is, it's probably going to take a giant belly. There's going to be a really slow season right in there. You know it's coming. Why are you not prepared for that? Like every year, regardless of what you do, that's just going to happen. So instead of being reactive, where we just go, okay, I hope everything works out, be proactive. Find a way to beat that system. So what I was saying before, you've learned what differentiates you. You've skimmed down to your best core clients because you've communicated or teased out that information from them. You know what your revenue looks like over the whole year, right? You know that most of your clients get these 4 services and they're all worth $1,000 a year to you, whatever that looks like, right? So spread out that into some sort of package and say, look, we're going to be, internally, you guys are going to be slow. Work out some sort of monthly ordeal. If you have those clients and you're serving 400 and you're barely getting by, look at the 370, look at the 275 or the 300 clients that you could serve at that higher level, and then do more things for them, but spread it out. Just change the mindset. The services don't change, but if you know that your season's 9 months and there's pretty much 5 services you're going to do, tell them you'll be there every month. It's going to be X amount of dollars. Break up that cost. You've now made a nice, consistent, recurring revenue for yourself. You've now built out that whole belly that you had in the middle of the summer. And now you have consistency. Your clients' properties look beautiful from March 1st all the way through to this Christmas season. And you've ultimately just spread out all those things that were going to happen anyway. It's not like you have no control over if your phone rings or not, right? So if you don't need any more leads, definitely don't take them, but look at your core. Your biggest asset is your existing customer base. So take that information. It's regardless of, they're going to come to you no matter what. So as long as you hold up your end of the bargain. So just spread that out and package it in a way that's going to serve them at a higher level and fill out over the whole year so that you don't have such extreme and severe peaks and valleys, and it'll help out extremely.
What if a guy is cutting grass right now, like just nonstop 5-6 days a week, and he's like, that this doesn't apply to me. I can't even.
Well, it does because cutting grass, I'm in the Northeast, but most places are like this. They're seasonal, right? So you're cutting grass in, April 30th is not the same as when you're cutting grass July 30th, right? You're cutting 6 inches off in April, and you're cutting 2 inches off in July, if that. So you're going to have those really slow seasons. So if you're doing other services, with which most green industry guys do multiple things, they trim, they do mulch, whatever. Take that same principle. You're also going to have those 4 lawn cuts in there, but find a way to still spread that around. So you're doing 4 cuts a month. But when you're there, you're also weeding the beds and you're doing like a monthly maintenance or that kind of thing. That gives you a little bit extra revenue. In the spring, you're still going to get your butt.
Now, are you saying because you think for a lawn care business owner that wouldn't he increase, like if he's bagging the lawn and it's 6 inches high, he's charging extra for those bagging fees to take that away, right? There's more revenue right there.
But a lot of guys do not do that. You would think that.
To keep the same price all year, and then they make up for it and say, well, I'm going to crush it. And when it's hot out, because I'm going to be flying and getting off work at 2 o'clock and making more money, right?
So again, if we're going to get really high level, we can say mindset, right? So most of these guys are selling a service. They're selling me coming out with a machine to physically cut grass off of your property. That's not what you're supposed to be selling. You're supposed to be selling the result, which is a finished, clean property. And all they want is for it to look the same. If they could get fake grass and make it look like it is just cut all year long, that's what they really want. They don't want their lawn mowed. They want it to look a certain way. So tell them that you're going to obtain that beauty all year round and find a way to package your offering in a way that spreads around. So maybe you could pad a couple dollars per month in that to make up for some inefficiencies in the spring and the lower points in the summer when it's really hot and you're going through a drought and you're only cutting 2 times a month instead of 4. You don't live and die by these natural things that are going to happen regardless of your efforts. Like the weather, there's no control over that. So you have to use it as an advantage or find a way to kind of spread that gap for yourself. So
when a guy is, say, he's so busy cutting 8-inch high grass all when it's rainy in the spring, but then the summer, if he wants to add, shrub trimming and pulling the weeds and these different type of maintenance packages to keep all that revenue stable and coming in, well, then what about all the customers who get used to him doing that? And now all of a sudden they want it all done in the spring. And now he said, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And then he's only doing it in the summer when people don't want it done, but he can't do it in the spring when they do want it done. How does that work?
No, I don't mean physically push the service off. I mean finding a way to have some quantity in, if your season's really 7 or 8 months, if you can spread it out a little bit longer, like 10 months, and start that process slower. But again, going back to, I want to mow as many lawns as humanly possible at $35 and hope volume balances out all my inefficiencies. That's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the level where if it rains for 2 weeks straight and you have to go cut all those lawns, you can still manage. Find a way that your prices make sense, that you're not killing yourself and you're not over leveraged. I think these guys are so, I mean, again, you have no control over the weather. It's very possible that you're going to get extremely wet spring. So have a customer base that you can manage and ease out as much revenue as you possibly can from them. Maybe that is, and we're only going to cut 3 days a week, 4 days a week. And we're going to do other things. Every company's going to be different. Some guys have 5 crews. Some guys, it's just him and a worker, whatever. But you have to find a way to figure out what your whole big picture is. You guys look at 1 or 2 week increments, right? You have to look at your whole season, because even over season, there's a lot of commonalities there. Find some of those. Try to find a way to spread out some of that. And if that is not possible because of what needs to be done for holidays or whatever those increments are, then take a smaller customer base and try to keep the revenue out.
I could tell just by the way that you talk that you look at actual factual cold hard data, statistics, analytics. You look at the analytics of the process. Now, the guy who's out running his business, he's working 65, 70 hours a week. He's in the field. He's not even managing his books properly. He's just like trying to make it through the week. That type of guy, how does he, so before I say, how does that guy get to the point where he can start looking at his analytics? Okay, I do internet marketing as well as, I do YouTube and I do like build websites and all this stuff. And it's taken me years, but I've learned that to sit and look at data analytics and drive into like Facebook ads and get into ROI. And it takes a completely different state of consciousness where your average guy who's used to being in the field, crushing it and behind the wheel of a truck and talking to customers, you try to sit a guy in front of a computer and say, okay, now Saturdays, you're going to spend 8 hours in front of the computer. He's going to freak out, man. How were you able to do that? And what software do you use and what type of mindset do you use so you could go in and start to actually extract all that value so you could see it?
Yeah. I mean, first step, again, we try to find people that know and understand that they need to change, not that they just need things to get better and then they're not going to actually put any to work. So the hard part for me as the consultant and coach is to find the guys, distill down my pre-qualifying process to get to the guy who's actually going to practice what is being preached to him, because it's going to work if he puts the work in to do so. That's sort of step one. But other than that, because that's their mindset.
So it's a painful process in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like you're dying.
Yeah, no, because it's the whole thing. It's just a pre-qualifier. It's a process like anything else. But the first step for us is always to get them some sort of admin help, because we see a high percentage of the time that's the first thing to get neglected. Their customer care, their schedule, their estimates, any sort of bookkeeping, managing of their time. Those are usually the major pain points that we see right away. So I try to get that out of their hands, because typically they are not the most qualified ones to be doing that, like you mentioned.
Wow. I can honestly say, since I hired a secretary, I'm not minding my business as much. And this has been the first month, and it's been amazing. And it's freed me up to even be here to talk to you right now, because I'd be doing paperwork right now.
For sure. That's the whole principle, right? So now you've kind of like segmented that in your brain, but you've also like physically segmented it from your schedule. So now you're in a different sort of, framework of how this is working. So you can leverage technology and these things that are going on there to be able to, so you're using a VA who's helping you maybe take your calls and handle some of your light bookkeeping or your schedule or whatever that looks like. And then that guy, he really just needs to see some reports, know some sort of light pulse on what's going on. He doesn't need to know the metrics of his per second man out. You do need to understand how that works, and that is a core of what's going on, but you don't need to be a master in that. So if you can use, like we use Service Autopilot, there's other CRMs out there. If you can work with people who have that content in place, you can help you arrive at some of your numbers and simply utilize a tool. We build an accountability KPI where all you do is plug in your start time with your crews and what your projected expenses are and your rough man hours. We allow you to track your numbers out so you can see money right away, and it automatically prints you out a report, just like black and white. Here's where you are, here's what you're making, and here's where you'd like to go. Like if you need to go get here, here's the series of steps you can get to that part. So you have to leverage those tools and realize you don't need to be a master in that. The guy who wants to be out in the field, who's a hustler, can't sit still, great that that's how you are, but learn that it's still important. So find someone to help you do that. It starts with a VA to kind of help with that process. And then from there, they can help with kind of run the machine, if you will, that will print out reports and keep it really high level for the guy running in circles, so that like at 9 p.m. he can look at his stuff and go, okay, that needs to be fixed. And then like it can be a work in progress, because you have to sort of fake it.
You know, it's interesting. This is extremely important with businesses that have a lower profit margin versus some businesses have there's so much profit that you literally could just hire people and just I just did it. Like, what do you mean? Like,
right. Different industries for sure. But yeah, knowing the labor portion of it, and something like lawn care that has a high equipment overhead recovery, it's extremely important to know your numbers. And even in cleaning's going to have a little bit higher profit margins, but again, the competition and knowing those things every bit as important.
Cool. So after somebody's got that down, they got the staffing, the help with the office, the phones, customer care, and then that kind of integrates. So they differentiate, identify, and then reintegrate. And then the next step is making the hire of the key man, a next crew, or what does that look like?
Usually I see it as a balance between your sales and your production, right? So what's more of a bleeding neck issue? So like you and your team, like you guys focus on marketing help and kind of driving the funnel, getting new people in. So now that you've worked out your numbers, you know where you need to be, you can quote with confidence, because you can kind of project those things over the phone too and save a lot of time, as it ties in back on that end. But in essence, you're moving all of your efforts now towards, okay, are we going to grow? So do you have a hard time getting new work? Some guys do. And then they're going to leverage something like what you have going on with social media or some of these other packages and content you can bring into your company at relatively low costs to drive up your sales. Mm-hmm. And if that requires if you're the guy who is not supposed to be the salesperson or don't want to be, you position a salesperson to front that part, or an estimator to front that part. If you are the guy that wants to be driving that machine and making all those quotes, then you need to make sure you have some dedicated systems and processes for your crew, for the production end, because you don't want to scale up your growth and all your sales come through the door and then your production's still down here and you can't.
Exactly. You just hit the nail on the head. I'm noticing that there's a step where you can scale up the amount of your sales and marketing to get the phone to ring off the hook, and you can go out and sell a bunch of work, but your production is still down here. Yeah. And now you're like, I'm more money isn't coming in. What's going on?
Sure.
So,
exactly. And we've done a lot with automations for even in an employee standpoint. So it's a major hot topic right now. The labor shortage, H-2B falling apart, all these different things. It's so hard to get guys. So people are there are some hard issues out there, and everybody blames everyone else. There's the drugs or the president or the whatever. Everybody blames everything else, and they are definitely factors for sure. But everyone's dealing with that. They're like ultimate equalizers. It levels the playing field because everyone has to deal with these things. So if you find ways in the same process that people focus on their marketing efforts to drive leads in, you have to take that same mentality to getting employees. Like, you're trying to be this perfect service provider who speaks your customer's language and delivers this high level of value and puts their peace of mind, like it just builds this community and this like warm and fuzzy feeling around your service, right? That's what you're trying to do for your clients. Take that same exact approach to your employees. Like, you have to make it a culture fit. It has to be someone that's going to want to be there and then aligns with some of the core values and things that you have. So we've developed some automations to help with that process, to streamline using technology the recruiting and the interview process very consistently, step over step, because you're getting 50 Indeed resumes and 1% of them is actually worthwhile for a phone call. So why are you spending your time going through that when we have a process so that you can screen through that, and it's going to do it for you automatically? There's a series of steps to just cut out the fat and get down to the people that are automatically going to be at least a culture fit for a conversation. So those sort of things are how you balance the production with your sales and trying to keep them. They have to both operate with a level of intensity and intent.
You're right, dude. You are right. When it comes to labor, when you have the right people working for you that are a good culture fit, it's like it's awesome. Like, it's a good day at work. But when you have the wrong people, dude, it's like
Living hell, for sure.
It's a living hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you look at Chick-fil-A, for example, right? They sell chicken sandwiches. They're not exactly the first person to ever do that, right? It's pretty simple concept, fast food. But when you go there, you have a bunch of 15 and 16-year-old kids who are extremely friendly, who blow you out of the water with my pleasure and please and thank you, and they just are out to please and to make a positive experience for you. They're young kids. They're the same exact pool of talent that you're pulling from, yet landscaping is associated with people that have a substance issue or don't have a driver's license or whatever. But Chick-fil-A found a way to build a system off the same exact labor pool, but screen them through in some sort of consistent way that allows them to have the top tier talent that aligns with what their core values are, where they're trying to go. And everybody thinks they have issues trying to hire two guys. One location probably has to hire 40 or 50 kids. So same principles are going to apply, but they're doing it. So find a way to tease out some of those same ideas.
So there comes a point where you get over your own excuses and you say, you know what, I gotta get the help, I gotta get the coaching, I gotta get whatever it takes to start moving this thing forward. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. It's the pain pleasure principle. When the pain gets worse of just, staying the pain of staying the same gets worse than the pain of changing. You naturally just fall into change. You're like, I'm just gonna start changing now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course, for sure. Yeah, no, that's all part of it. I mean, like I said, you have to be willing to take the change and to be able to say that, you have to believe it. That's the thing. That's why I try to start at those really incremental levels. Like, if you can take, especially guys who are super focused on, they're running on like the expert level, like in a video game, right? They're running at such a high caliber, running, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day, that when something gets taken off their plate, they can like, wow, okay, that's real change. Like, that made an overnight difference in your business when someone said, I'll take over the customer care. Changed everything for you as far as what your day looks like. So that alone is like, they have to be able to see that, understand that, and see that those sort of switches are what needs to happen throughout your business, not just in your operations or not just in your office.
dude, it's like when you talk, these like epiphanies happen in my head. So I've been working. I'll run out the door at 7:30 a.m. because I'm up till 1 to 3 a.m. working on my internet business. So I work for anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a day in my service business, running that. The second I get home, take a shower, eat dinner with my wife, then hop on the laptop from 1 to 3 a.m. and literally wake up and just run out the door and go back to work. And to the point where I'm laying in bed with bags under my eyes like Looney Tunes, and I go into like a total breakdown at least a couple times a year. Haven't this year yet, because but anyways, you talk about running at that high caliber, and that I'm sure a lot of people watching can relate to that. And we watch people like Grant Cardone and Gary Vaynerchuk and these people on social media that are, crushing it. And after you watch like a video like this, you're like, oh, dude. And then you'll go out and just hit it and go work. Oh, I'm going to work 20 hours a day. I'm going to crush it. And then you end up burned out. So and as we begin to wrap this up, because I want to know about a little bit more about what you do and how you help people, because I know that you said you kind of have a done for you system or help with consulting and people who will help manage the customer care, like we're talking about. But what does that look like? How do you differentiate while you're in it, especially in the high time of the season where you have to make money to pay the taxes and the insurance policies and all that, and you're afraid to like take your hands off for a second?
Right. So that's a great question, because most people take that as an immediate excuse. An immediate takeaway that I'm saying do less, like just be lazier. Don't put out as much. Don't output as much. The point is that it's calculated effort. You need to have strategy for where you're going. Take your crazy mindset that got you to where you are now, of your 12 hours a day running like an animal. Take that on building your business. Like they always say, working on your business. Those are the exponential things that are going to matter. Right now, if you're driving 12 hours a day, like if you were to put a GPS in your truck and have a 30,000 foot overview of your day, you would look like a mouse in a cage, right? Just running around in circles, no rhyme or reason. You're at the suppliers, you're at your employees, you're at job sites, you're running over to get lunch, and like your life is just this muddled mess. So if you can start to separate out those things and put massive effort, you talk about like 10X with what Grant Cardone does and Gary Vee, all these guys, their efforts are hyper focused on specific things. When they're doing that, there is no other thing going on. They are so in the zone with whatever they're working on. Maybe that's a system. Maybe that's finding that key software program. Maybe that's finding that coach or that consultant or that employee or whatever that is. Those are the things that are going to drive you and make a difference. You going and getting that last lawn cut is not making your long-term, not getting you closer to your long-term goal. So those are the things. It's where you put your time.
Wait, but the lawns need to be cut, dog.
Yeah, of course. But so like I said, but it's all about how you schedule that. So if there's 7 days in a week and you schedule 7 days of mowing with no recourse, no safety net, nothing, you've now built in nothing for yourself to give you any sort of way out or anything to do. So like build into that time. Like you have, like people get like they're trapped. Like there's some sort of unspoken chain that makes them have to stay in a certain line in their lane. They can't do anything else. Like you have to get out of that. Like,
you know what it is? It's the bills that are coming in.
For sure. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And it's not so much, again, it's not abandoning all of your principles and just like not servicing your customers.
Wait, I got to say something. There's an amazing book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. Mm-hmm. I was broke, making like $9 an hour at a collision shop, cleaning cars. And I would go in the bathroom and I'd sit in there for like 15, 20 minutes and hide, and I would read this book, dude. And he said something so amazing. He said, even no matter how busy you are, like on this path, like in the river, you have to, even if you got to take a shovel, even when you don't have the time, and just here and there, you just take a little shovelful off to the side and start a new stream. And he goes, if you just keep doing it here and there, little by little, eventually it'll start to trickle into a stream. Then you could do a trickle, flow, flood. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Like you can carve out a new path, and it's really hard to do, but to refocus the efforts.
Yeah. See, being busy is a choice. You choose to overwhelm yourself. There's no one out there. If you own your own company, you get to make all the rules, everything. So if you've built in all these chains and boxed yourself in and it's not working, that's on you to have to change it. It's not the government's fault and all these different things that need to happen. Like you have the ability to make a series of decisions. It's not going to be overnight, but it has to be calculated. And that's where we usually start with people, getting their mindset right, freeing up small amounts of their time. And in that time that we freed up, they're not going to the bar. They're focusing on their business. They're focusing on core things that are going to make a monumental difference overall. So it's chipping away at that for sure. But you have to realize that the busyness that you're doing, the exhaustion that you feel at the end of the day, overall, those are a series of decisions that were made to get to that point. And that could have been effort put on other things and still done. So you can still outsource different portions, but it's that mixture and it's that belief that it can happen.
I'm reading this book right now called Mindset by Carol Dweck. And somebody on YouTube told me to read it because I'm always on audiobooks. This book is amazing. You guys got to listen to this. She's talking about the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. The fixed mindset is always stuck on, but you don't understand. They're stuck in everything, their business, their relationships, their art, their artistry. The growth mindset always looks at it like you're talking about, because depending on the paradigm in which you're looking at it from, if you guys still watching right now could be extremely pissed off at Sean, we say, no, it doesn't.
So like think about it, from a different perspective too. So let's say you're like, if you're a younger business owner, or even if you've been around a long time, imagine you have a young kid who started in the same path that you did and is trying to start his lawn care business or his window cleaning business or his home service, whatever it is. What would you tell him to do? What would be the series of steps you would allow him to do? What would be the first way you would go about it? Take those principles and apply them yourself. Take the stuff you would preach to a kid, because regardless, even though you might not feel that you know, because you're older than them and because you have experiences, you do know, it's inside of you. And if you don't know, it's extremely reasonable to go find with the internet.
Bro, where do you come up with this? Like, you're going meta. In your consciousness, the things you talk about are meta. Meta, for those you don't know, you have water. If you put it into a bottle, you kind of go on meta. If you take it and you put it to a 6-pack of bottles of water, that's going meta. If you put that into a 12-pack and then to a 24 case, and then you put that into 48 case of water, and then you take that and you stack that on a pallet, and then you stack all the pallets into a semi truck. You know what I'm saying? It has you like looking at the forest for the trees farther and farther back, so you can separate and get out of the fishbowl of your own kind of consciousness and go, whoa, and then you can see it. And then, because you talked about zooming down on yourself, looking at yourself, if you could, those are really good exercises. So Can a guy do that while he's working, or does he have to actually get out of the environment and go meditate on a mountain or something?
No, you have to be willing to take the risk, because it's scary. It's scary to do, for sure. But compounding interest that you're talking about, it's one of the most powerful things out there, right? Being able to take those principles, and then I keep talking about that exponential. Everybody takes these incremental growths, but what if that free time that you got, or that one audio book for $6 that you read, that you listened to, sparked some idea that made you go knock on a car dealership, and then he had 75 car dealerships, and it just led into this huge thing because you freed up a half hour of your time and your mindset to go do that.
It's the one domino.
Right. So you could spend that half hour and go answer that email that you could have paid someone $6 to do, or you could have went over and spent that half hour and made, a monumental change in your business.
Okay, so that's good. Anything else we talk about would just be beating a dead horse. So what up, man? What do you guys? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, first thing we try to do, like I said, we try to pre-qualify as well. We're not the best fit for everybody. I don't try to be all things to all people. I am a resource sort of consultant. So when someone comes to me, I usually have a solution for whatever they're going through. It's not always my content or my particular in-house service. I have no problem referring someone out or putting them in the direction that makes the most sense. I do some advisory calls too, where people just hop on for an hour once, a week, once a month, whatever level of help they need. And we kind of go through what's going on, and then I sort of prescribe what I would suggest doing, and they can take it or leave it and do that sense. So what I usually suggest is just to do a discovery call. We take 15 minutes, just go through your information. It's always free. Learn a little bit more about your business, explain and sort of pinpoint where your bleeding neck priority top issues are. And then we sort of build a game plan. And then I can sort of attach some of those costs on what it would be for me to help you do it, or if you want to go and explore those things on your own. So that's basically where I like to start. And then from there, like I said, we have the Done For You service, which is the virtual office support. It's usually the first prescription that I'll put out, which is to get some of your time back from your office and do that side of it. So that's sort of step one, and we do that. It's extremely reasonable. We hook you up with an in-house person that knows home service, that knows contracting, that knows your world, knows customer care, even knows software programs. Like, we've trained them in the software programs. So you're not finding someone in Indeed, spending 3 months trying to learn your system. It's just a lot to process. So we beat that system.
That's a huge issue right there. I spent a lot of time looking on from Indeed all the way down to Craigslist. And I'm like, I got to find somebody, and finding somebody who already knows how to do it, who has already done it, and you just put them in the position, and then they're already ready to rock. I have no interest in training people to do anything. The stupidest thing in my internet business, I was trying to, because I have a couple of assistants who work for me, several of them who are already experts in what they do. And I was trying to I don't know, just hire people and teach them how to do things that would take them years how to learn, and then getting upset when they couldn't do it.
Right. It's one thing to be said, especially on the production. I'm usually a proponent of saying go with less experience, because if you can build the system, and we have some done for you systems for training your people and how to build videos and how to have a walk step by step on how to use every piece of equipment and how to utilize different materials and how your services break down. Like, we can coach you and have solutions for those type of efforts. In that sense, if you have a system, it makes a lot of sense to run a new person through that system. If you have no system and you get a brand new person and you try to shove them through, I mean, you're just going to compound the issue, and there's just going to be, problems at every turn, because you haven't built them expectations on what the job's going to look like and what you expect from them. So we help with all of those sort of things. And we even have some bookkeeping solutions as well. And like I said, we have a lot of the automation side on the software, and to sort of get you to make a small investment to allow something to run in the background that you no longer need to think about. And I think that's extremely powerful in the micro sense of what we're talking about here, and also in the macro sense of building a long-term scalable business.
Okay, so you are Sean Adams at Integra Consulting, and you've built a done-for-you service and systems. You've created a system that contractors can plug into with you, and then they can get the support they need, the staffing to maybe answer the phones for customer support, doing books. And so you've created all that, so then they could just plug into your system and get the support that they need, and then they can get off the plateau in their business.
Exactly.
So you get on the phone with them, and then you find out exactly where they're at, and you dive deep and qualify them and say, oh, this is your bottleneck and your issue. Yeah. We might or might not have a solution for that. Okay, that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's it. And I have a series of affiliates, so I don't try to do everything myself. Like I said, I have built relationships over the years with all different kinds of service providers that help contractors and home service guys. So when we distill down what your issues are, I can kind of point you in the direction that's going to make sense. And then we all live in this little ecosystem and help each other. So that's the whole point, is we're bettering everyone by raising the ecosystem up, by everyone competing and being able to stay in their lane, but also helping people in those specific verticals that they're best in.
That's awesome. What's your website, so I can put it below? And do you have a YouTube channel, a Facebook? I'll put it all in the link below.
Yeah, I've got a LinkedIn is a great place to I communicate with a lot of people on there. I have Facebook as well, just Sean Adams on both platforms. Website is consult-integra.com. I'll give you all that info to hop on. I'll put the links below. But yeah, you can go on there. My calendar's on there. Just schedule 15 minutes. Like I said, we just kind of distill, go down with where you need to be, and point you in the right direction. Whether you are going to use our services or not, we'll be able to provide you some value.
Yeah, guys, if you're watching this still right now, thumbs up, hit the thumbs up button for sure if you're still watching this, and let us know in the comments below. But if you've got that feeling where you're kind of frustrated in your business, and reach out to Sean specifically, click the link in the description below this video and get on a 15-minute consultation call with him and reach out to him. This dude is legit, so he can really, really help.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Keith. I appreciate it.
All right, man. All right. Enjoy your week, and let's do another one of these soon. I'll talk to you soon. Later, Sean.
For sure. Take care, man. Thank you.
All right. Bye.